Hello everyone, welcome back to the Garden Art channel, and I just want to say that I don't really have anything planned for this video. I just wanted to come in here and um let's start drawing something, because really I don't really plan these videos. I just start drawing stuff and talk about random things, and I think this is just a way to, hone my creative thought and really drive my motivation and discipline to draw more often. And for most of you guys that are new to the channel, if you don't know, this is gonna be my journey to creating my own comic book, writing and illustrating it myself. So it's kind of like one of those manga type of illustrators, I guess, but less anime and more, realism. I kind of like the realism art better than the anime, and I'm not saying that the anime is bad. I just have a preferred, style, and I think what I'm really trying to aim for is a mix of both, realism and anime type art style, because I really do enjoy both styles pretty much. And the whole point of this channel is, just track my art journey, see where I'm going with this. And I'm not consistent, not every day. I mainly draw when I'm bored, and I almost forgot the draw there. I mainly draw when I'm bored. That's it. I mean, to really like hone in on those skills and like be able to draw every day, you kind of have to, be willing to just draw. And I watch those videos where like, oh, you have this, draw like 24 hours every day, and you gotta have to draw, all these boxes and shapes and all that. And the thing is that while most of the art advice may be true, it can be sometimes overwhelming. And I think in a way, I kind of want to show like a different side of art, like I don't want to just shove in you guys' face like, oh, I am this type of artist and I draw like these many shapes every day. And it's like, no, not really. I just sort of want to show you guys that, maybe we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves to be good. We should just start doing good things. And one of those good things is just showing up every day and just, performing to our best abilities. And just to let you guys know, I might slow down in the future with these videos, and that's just because I have work and I'm trying to work 2 jobs right now. So yeah, I don't have 2 jobs yet. I do start one of my jobs next week, and right now I'm doing an interview for my gaming license, because I'm going to be working in a casino. So really excited for that, really excited to make money, so that way I can keep supporting this channel. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, subscribe, hit the like button, and maybe in the future you guys can get more of these types of videos, or probably even, start back up my gaming channel. So right now, well, I'm just really thumbnailing different poses and stuff, and I'm mainly do a lot of my drawings from imagination. Like, yeah, I look at a reference here and there just so that way I can get a clear idea, but I don't copy the reference. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. It's probably a bad thing, but I don't know. There's just something so more freeing about just taking ideas and then making something new out of it, essentially. Well, I guess you can say I'm kind of a progressive artist, not really a conservatory artist. And that's how I am with a lot of things. Is that, I remember something, I want to draw it, and so here I am, drawing it. And I'm not really taking anything really too seriously right now. Maybe in the future, I can start like taking things more seriously, but right now I just sort of want to get inside my own head and really understand what I'm trying to do with these drawings. And well, yes, I think in the future I should be doing more structured videos, but right now I just want to get the habit of drawing first. And that's the thing about a lot of potential artists out there, is that they want to jump straight into the learning, and the thing is, that's not really how we work every day. When you really think about it, when you were younger, I don't know if this is the same for everyone else, but back in like preschool, I would say, or kindergarten, you didn't go to school and then just started to learn math right away. You came in, you played around, and the whole point of that was just to get you to show up every day. You didn't really start with like any math or reading. I mean, maybe if you just jump straight into kindergarten, maybe you experience some of that, but even in kindergarten, you don't really jump into like all the hard stuff. You took it easy, like the teacher be like, okay, we're gonna do this, you guys are gonna play with your blocks, and then now you can learn some math or something like that. I don't know. But eventually, as you get to like the first, second, third grade, then you will start to learn like basic math, division, reading, and then fourth, fifth, sixth grade, you get a little bit more advanced with it, and then like seventh, eighth grade, they prepare you for high school, and then high school prepares you for college, and it becomes like this snowball effect where they get you to show up every day first as a young kid. And the whole reason why I'm saying this is because we need to teach ourselves as artists, just to show up. Just let's start drawing. Just do anything. Draw circles, draw boxes. When you have free time, and we can be so hard on ourselves, and I think I'm ranting a little bit too much about that, and I do apologize if I am repeating myself, but I really want to get through your heads that not everything's a race, and that it's okay to take our time, that it's okay not to have everything figured out. You just have to accept that you're not going to have it figured out. You have to move on. You have to keep going. Maybe I'm getting a little too deep for thought there, but most of you guys know what I mean. I mainly apply this to like art and stuff. So yeah, I mean, here I go now, drawing this back part. Maybe he's looking off in the distance somewhere. I'm gonna illustrate that he is. Maybe he has his hand on his hip. Let's see here. Maybe he's one of those like spread out type of guys. I'm just warming up right now. You know, just warming up, letting that little kid draw anything that he wants, anything that he's comfortable with, anything that comes to mind, whatever he may, you know, choose to draw it for him. And even if it's not perfect, I know he will like it because I drew it. Another random thought. Recently, I purchased a master course on New Masters University, and even though I don't visit it that much, I still find it relatively useful because it's Art Masters Academy. You're gonna have some great artists on there, people who've been through it all, you know, who've been through the red and mud. And there's this one instructor on there that really spoke to me. I think he's an old dude, you know, and older people tend to, you know, hit you different with because of the wisdom that they have. And what he said was exactly what I mentioned earlier, is that we gotta let that kid explore. We gotta stop being so perfectionist all the time. We gotta let that little kid out when we draw, because that's just who we were when we started drawing, you know. That's how every artist starts, is that they find, you know, a way to express themselves. And as a kid, you didn't really thought about all the complex shades and sizes and all that stuff. You just drew because you loved it. And that's what he was trying to get at, is that you gotta be able to just love your art for you. And I'm not saying, like, you know, be a modern artist, because I don't really enjoy modern art too much. I don't think there's any real skill in that. But what I am saying is that allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to be imperfect. Imperfection, you know, allow imperfection. Sorry about that. Allow imperfection to come in and really settle into your bloodstreams and into your mind, and just accept that you're not going to be perfect. You know, because at the end of the day, that little kid wasn't, you know, thinking about like, oh, how perfect his drawing was. He was thinking like, I made something out of nothing and I feel good about it, you know. And, you know, getting ahead of myself here, I don't think you know, a lot of us think that way. I surely didn't think that way until after he mentioned it. So yeah, that's just my food for thought though. So just drawing this figure right now, drawing the hands, drawing the chest, being really loose with it, being okay, but not having all the proportions right, being okay with imperfection. At the end of the day, I have to be my biggest ally. And if I'm against myself, then I can never make it. You'll never make it if you're always against yourself. You know? Of course, I have this little dough thing I'm definitely going to be using because I like using it. And as I'm drawing here, I'm getting ideas. As I'm, of course, ranting, I'm getting ideas of what I want to draw. And what I'm thinking of right now is maybe I can make, because I've been thinking about wizards lately. I don't know if you guys can see the feet there, but I've been thinking a lot about wizards. How insanely good they are. And I was just thinking, like, maybe I could, draw a wizard myself. You know? Maybe I can do that a bit here. This is definitely going to be a longer video. Hmm. Really scribbly. Not exactly what I wanted, but I'll be okay. Really scribbly. And now, this is probably the best I'm going to get it. I'm not using any references, so, he's supposed to be laying down, but look at that. Kind of looks like he has two really meaty, like, chicken legs, and then, the rest of his body is skinny. Like, all the fat went into his body. Maybe I just, like, draw a little quick sketch right here. Maybe some dude's like ready to fight this man. Ready to fight chicken legs. Boom. Right there. He's ready to fight him. Ready to fight chicken legs. And then maybe we can add something right here. Maybe he's flying through the air. Maybe swimming. Maybe something like that. Nah. Alright, well, now we're at the part of the video where, I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously here. I want to improve, and part about loving something is that you gotta be willing to suffer for the betterment of one's life, essentially. And in this case, you gotta be willing to endure all the headaches, lessons, boredom, and yes, even like the still study hours on end study of drawing things to create the good stuff. And so, when you love something enough, you're willing to go through the fire and brimstone with it, And this is what we're going to be doing here. So the whole point is to be creating something from nothing. Creating a character, writing that character's story. And I actually wrote a story for this character, so maybe I'm gonna take this idea, take the original idea of the video and draw it. We don't know what I'm talking about. Then of course you don't. I'm talking about sorry, I just had a brain fart. You don't know what I'm talking about, because of course you don't know what I'm talking about. Or would you? I said I had an original idea for this video that I was going to do. I was going to like thumbnail sketch and like story tell over it. But I was sort of thinking, no, maybe I shouldn't do that. It's not really. I don't want to become like a storytelling channel, because then it's not like, you know, it's not what I intend for this channel. You know, yeah, I don't really want to do any of that. So I'm just going to explain away as I go. God, this head looks awful. After all I said earlier. But the hypocrisy. You said that it's okay not to. Yeah, I did. I know I messed up. It's okay. Like that, we're taking this a little bit more seriously. But we're not going to be hard on ourselves about it. We have an eraser for a reason. Just erase them and move on. But back to what I was saying. I wrote this character, and her name was Demarius. And I'm gonna pull up the script here because, you know, I can't really remember everything I wrote off the top of my head. Here we go. Well, there was a story I was writing. Her name was, you know, Demarius. And Demarius comes from like a small village. You know, she comes from a small village that's filled with like agriculture and stuff. Like they're very like in tune with like nature and stuff. And they were kind of like their own thing. You know, they had their own village, you know, leader, and you know, they kind of like lived among like the trees and stuff, like nature and all that. Now, and picture, do with that information as you will. But essentially, she was like a farmer of this village, her and her family. And what she doesn't know is that her family comes from a descendant of like nature was, and her family descendant is the one that founded the village. And when they found out that, you know, her interest in like nature at an early age, because Demarius, when she was a little girl, she would run out into the forest, you know, play with the bugs, rest near rivers, and essentially spend most of her time in nature. And when her family took notice of this, they sent her off to her uncle. And her uncle is a powerful nature wizard. I'm talking about like really powerful. Probably the best from his time. And essentially, he also seen that spark in her, that, you know, that willingness, that desire to be one with what she wants to have, and that's nature, you know, being part of that culture. And so, spending most of her childhood, her teenage years and preteens, you know, learning from her uncle about the ways of like nature, stuff. I think I drew this a little too small. Yeah, I think it did. Draw this a little too small for you guys, but I'm sorry about that. I'll just keep drawing though. Maybe I can give her big ears to really show, you know, I'm drawing something here. And back to what I was saying though. You know, and later on, when she was a young woman, she would become like the most beautiful in her village, you know? She would become like this counselor, this guardian, this protector. That sort of way. And she kind of loved her people in that same village, you know. Everyone to her was family. Everyone saw her as like this. And this mother type figure. And essentially I was like, you know what? That sounds like a really happy and jolly story. So how about I just ruin it by introducing a sort of event that happens. So in this comic book that I'm writing, in this world, it has been tainted by darkness. And while I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because I kind of want to, you know, be mysterious about it, about the whole lore of this world. Essentially what happens is that there's this event called the Shattering of the Peace Seal. And the peace seal represented, you know, peace among the lands, and it was supposed to represent a time where things can prosper and new cultures will thrive. Because in this time period where she's growing up, it's all the cultures are sort of just developing. You know, think about like a time where like human cultures just started to develop. The beginning of like, you know, ancient Egypt, or like, you know, things like that. You know, the beginning of like Norse mythology and all that. Imagine if you were living in that time period where things are just starting to happen. Like lore for like the world just started to happen. And the peace seal was supposed to represent, you know, a time where, you know, agreement among the most powerfulest beings, that the mortals and the creatures, no matter who they were or what they were, to develop cultures. And one of those gods didn't like that. And so years later, he would shatter the peace seal, lock away the pieces inside his armor, and then drew it, and then like drop the world into chaos. And the reason why I mention this is because as soon as, you know, the seal has been shattered, the man who shattered the seal became the Dark Lord of this universe, essentially sacrificing his mortal body for a more immortality, like soul, smoke-like form. And he sealed that smoke inside of an armor. And the only way, you know, you can kill him was through pure, like the most purest of magic of all time. And it had to be a blade to do it, because he used his blade to break the seal. And it will be a similar blade, a blade of an opposite type of thing, in order to kill him. And so when that happened, he sent his soldiers, his raiders, out into the world, and unfortunately one of those passing groups came by Demarius's village. And while Demarius was strong, she wasn't strong enough for the Dark Lord's army, and her village and her people will be slaughtered, and her village will be burned to the ground. Of course, the only survivor that was strong enough to survive the raid was her. And despite her uncle being a powerful wizard, his prime was long past his time. And he was not strong enough to help her defend the village against these raiders. And during this event, she would lose her right eye. And in her sadness and in her grief, she would spend days burying everyone in that village. And then eventually leaving it, journeying deep into the forest to where he would no longer return. Well, she would return eventually, but for now she was in a forest somewhere, practicing her magic that her uncle taught her, using her rage and her anger towards the Dark Lord to fuel her magical prowesses. So that way she might claim revenge on him one day. And essentially what this is an origin story for is the Dark Forest. And she will be known as a symbol of not anything good. She will be known as someone that took vengeance and anger way too far, to the point where she created a whole new branch of magic itself. And that was the Darkwood magic. And Darkwood magic essentially took, trees and like bended them like unnaturally in order to attack people, kind of like roots. And she would brainwash animals to do her own command. For her to command. She would command the rocks to make herself armor, and she will also be, a mother figure to wolves and other dark beings in the dark forest. She will create dark spirits out of her anger. She will create, curses out of her anger, like werewolves and vampires, anything that, distorts the natural law of nature. She would be the cause of that. And that was all because she was angry that her family was taken away so suddenly. And I know I'm kind of drawing her happy here, but maybe this is a time where she actually was happy. And that she didn't have to worry about those monsters in the forest. But this is all my guess, Maybe she was dealing with some things, but it really took a turn for her when those monsters came in the middle of the night. And so years will go by. And she will emerge a powerful dark wizard. And in this universe, practicing any evil magic of any kind will result in you being, your soul being cast into darkness, essentially. You won't go where other people go when they die. You will go somewhere else. And in this universe, there's really no heaven or hell. Just the path that you created for yourself. And those lives taken, innocent lives that were taken without cause. You know, they believed they went to somewhere safe. But because he would essentially disobey the laws of nature, bend every single spell that her uncle taught her, she was destined to be alone. In her death, and in her afterlife, she will not see the family that she loved. But that was okay for her. She knew the cost, and she made up her mind. And she chose. She chose willingly to do the things that she did. As long as the people of her village get the vengeance that she almost desires, and then she'll be okay. So the question is, did she challenge the Dark Lord? Did she ever get vengeance? Well, yeah, she did. But probably not in a way that might not satisfy you. So let me finish the story for you guys real quick. She went to challenge the Dark Lord. Many years goes by. She's in her late 20s, almost the early 30s. And she meets the Dark Lord at her house. Not at her house. What do you mean? What do I mean by that? Sorry. Probably gonna take a break here for a little bit to gather my thoughts, and then I'll continue with the story. Alright, I'm back. You notice a little pause there, just because I paused the recording for a little bit. Anyway, back to what I was saying. You know, when I first thought about this story, I kind of went about the idea of love. And when she lost her village, she made a commitment. And then people travel all the way to where the Dark Lord resides. The being, because he is no longer man or Titan. She would meet him there, and she would challenge him. But the Dark Lord was powerful. Understand that, guys. This is a powerful being that she's going up against, and despite her power, the Dark Lord comes from a great descendants of Titans, one of the first beings to live alongside the ancient dragons. And and he gave up his corporeal body to ascend to a more spiritual and to a more powerful form. He essentially rid the limits of his Titan form, and his body now has no limits. As long as he so desires to become more powerful, and as long as his will is strong, and he doubts nothing. And so, when she approached the palace which the Dark Lord resides, he would test her strength. At first, he will send his finest soldiers. Not a whole lot. A few. He will send his soldiers after her to test her physical strength, and she wouldn't kill them. Oh, I shouldn't say that word. Mortally wound them. Just to show an example of her power. He doesn't even break a sweat, by the way. His groans are strong. And when he saw that her physical strength was powerful, he would send his powerful and most finest wizards and witches after her. And of course, he would kill them without, breaking a sweat. He's just that strong. And then he would go down there himself. And don't get me wrong, guys. When she was in the presence of the Dark Lord for the first time, she felt his overwhelming power, his magical prowess, his ability to just drain your energy, the fear of God in you, because he was death, and death walked with him. And so, being in the presence of the Dark Lord for the first time in her life, faced the coward that sent those men into her village to kill everyone. Not only that she felt fear, but she felt rage. And rage was her most powerfulest tool. Of course, they will battle. And they fought for 3 days and nights. Their battle shook the earth, creating new valleys, creating rivers, and they would clash so often that they would create clouds of black smoke and fire, and lightning would strike. Despite her overwhelming power, it wasn't enough. And the Dark Lord will strike her down, severing her arm. And tossing her back onto the earth. And there she lied. She lid there. She lied there. Stiff. And barely breathing, as she was tired. The will to fight seemed to be fading. Her bloodlust, her need for vengeance seemed to be fading. As she longed to be reunited with their family, with their village, once again. And then a voice brought in her head. Get up. One more time. She didn't know if it was the voice of her father, of her uncle, of her mother. There was just something that told her, get up. One more time. Don't go just yet. For us. Despite bleeding out, faced with the inevitable, she will conjure up a blade. A blade that will be sought after. A blade that was the answer. The only thing that cracked the Dark Lord's armor. That fateful day. The Curatian sword. Everything. Her memories of the village that she once loved. The memories of her parents. Of her uncle. Everyone that she loved. She will conjure it into that blade. Every little bit of joy and free will that she had left. Be conjured into that blade. Powerful, pure magic. One last time. All that I have left. And then the Dark Lord, Demarius, will strike for the final time. Demarius will shatter the Dark Lord's arm with the blade. The blade unyielding. The blade not breaking. The blade piercing his armor. And Pamela? Well, not Pamela. And Demarius, well, she would succumb to the Dark Lord's final strike as he no longer, had the will to live. That final strike. Made her weak. And as she looked up to the sky one last time, knowing she wouldn't go where her village and her family is. She took Sovereign. As for the last and final time in her life, she was happy where she was. And her body would disintegrate. Of course, not sharing the fate that she thought she would, but instead will be stuck on the earth. Her spirit trapped in that dark forest. Even if she's not burning, even if she's not in that dark place where evil spirits go, she will forever atone for her sins against nature by dwelling in the place he harmed it. What was the Dark Forest? And in this universe, that's kind of like the story behind it. And it's not necessarily like a dark forest, it's mainly like, oh yeah, it's kind of like a dark forest where evil creatures reside. But like that, there's a complexity to it. It's not just where evil spirits are. Those spirits have a reason to be there. They weren't chosen to be there. They were there because, you know, a certain someone couldn't let go. I mean, how could she? How could she forgive a monster? By that sort of way the justice goes in this world. Justice is blind. And the justice has a obvious bias, I would say. Because, I mean, it has to. Because I think it just becomes a little bit too Disney-like if all of a sudden she's forgiven. I don't want that. I don't want Disney, logic in my stories. There has to be some sort of punishment, even there's some tragic story behind it. Even if there is a reason, there shouldn't be no reason, and that's the way it works. But of course, I'm drawing her at a time where he wasn't a dark wizard. A powerful dark wizard, by the way. And I sort of enjoyed writing this character too, and not in a way you would think of. I'm not like getting kicks and joys from sad stories, nothing like that. But in a way, it's sort of helping me build my, world building. Because, I mean, Dark Forest, come on. Dark Lord, come on. Classic vengeance story, come on. But it's not the format, I would say. It's the way you spin things. And the way I spin them is, even if she's sad, angry, there's still things she has to. There's still things that she had to, have responsibility over. Because understand that this magic, this powerful magic that she had, that her uncle had, will never be discovered again because of her vengeance. There won't be any form of healing magic. You know, there won't be no form of powerful healing magic because nature, in this sense, is healing. She did the opposite, and she will lose hundreds of years of powerful nature magic, and that's what the sin was. She could have got her vengeance. She could have made the Dark Lord pay, but instead, at least in a way where she gets justice, not vengeance. And that's the moral of this story here. That you derive for vengeance, you would sin not against a god, but against the entire bloodline that you have responsibility over protecting. Your uncle gave you powerful knowledge, and you have sinned against him by throwing away everything that nature magic stood for, and that was healing. That was being a healer. Yeah, you failed to protect your village. But you had to heal. Grieve. Grieve as you wish, Marius, but you had to let it go. You had to get justice. But you didn't. In a way, you lost them again. In a way, you failed them again. And so that's kind of like how, just give you an idea of how these stories might play out in the future. They're not all going to be sad. They're going to have their own stories and development, but I just find stories more interesting when when there's conflict, when there's no black and white, there's a lot of gray too. And that's just a short story, one story out of many. So who knows? Maybe the next story can be more Disney-like, but for now, that's sort of where her story ends. And just to go a little bit more in depth with the healing stuff. Maybe I won't go into more depth with the healing stuff. Never really thought about how magic worked in this world. Maybe I have to rework it a little bit. But as in layman's terms, that's just how the magic sort of worked, you know? I have no idea how to draw claws, so just bear with me here. I probably need to get into that a little bit more. Just like take a little bit of time, not too much time. Really studying how these claws work. Just tell me what you guys think. Should I make a more jolly story next time, or do you guys like the more, I should say, grim stories? Because I like a story when it's grim, honestly. Like that. I'm not really too perfect when it comes to concept designs. I will be honest, I really suck at stuff, but it's just what it's gonna have to look like until later down the road when I can actually, start drawing better stuff. That all has to come down to what I'm willing to learn. Let me see. Here I am not getting that. I think that all art takes time. Trying to really feel things out. And maybe this is kind of true too. Kind of like this mushroom top that she has going on here. Maybe I need to be a little bit more consistent with the design. This top. Maybe she has. Yeah, she has. Maybe like a little belt right here. And a skirt. He has that? I have no idea. Use some really basic shades for that. Have like a potion right here. know the basics too, but you know, uh, coming off very flat, but I think we sort of get the idea of what we're trying to go for here. Alright. Well, it's a half idea design, and if you made it this far into the video, well, I would say thank you very much for listening. I'm at an hour of runtime, and this is probably about all the juice I have left. I am planning to do more structured videos, and I am planning to go do more story times like these, and I am willing to, you know, explore out of my comfort zone. So if you guys enjoyed this video and would like to support my art journey going forward, please subscribe, leave a like, comment. You know, if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask. If you guys really want more structured study videos, please ask. If you guys want more story time videos, please ask. You know, you guys make up this channel, and I really want to make sure that I'm doing my part as a creator to satisfy you guys, and also at the same time being able to create a unique fan base where we can all, you know, share an idea, have an opinion, be able to build something together a little bit, while also having the original roots of my comic book journey, character designs, art studies, things like that, and being able to evolve this channel to something good. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a nice night, because it's nighttime for me and it's almost midnight, so that's why I'm going to end the video right here. I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.